All right, Mrs. Kegley, grade 8. This is the Contender Chapter 11, which is, in this copy, page 85. Okay. Major saw him first. "There's the champ." "Hey, champ," said Sonny. "It's my main man, Alfred," said Major, throwing an arm around his shoulders and pulling him down into the darkened clubroom. "What's your drink, brother?" "I'm in training," said Alfred. A single red bulb shone over the spinning record player. He squinted at the shadowy figures in the room, some dancing, others sprawled on floor pillows. "Where's James?" "He'll be by. Wine?" "No, thanks." "Take a night off, man. You're in shape. Gotta have some kicks." Major's girl June came out of the shadows. "You come alone, Alfred?" "Yeah." "Good," she said, linking her arm in his. "Got somebody I want you to meet." "Can't stay long." "Wait till you meet her." She led him across the floor, weaving among the dancers, stepping over couples, whispering and necking. She lit a match, and a dark, chubby girl with a curly blonde wig and thick pink lipstick smiled up at Alfred. "This is Arlene," said June. The match went out, and June let his arm go. "I'm Alfred Brooks." "Hi. Dance?" He was surprised at how easily she came into his arms, so close that the strong, sweet smell of her perfume made him dizzy in the heat of the crowded room. The music was low, funky blues, and he swayed to it. "You live here?" She shook her head, and the stiff hairs of the wig brushed his nose. "I'm visiting June. She's my cousin." Major came around with the wine bottle, and Arlene drank from it. Alfred pressed it away, twice, when Major pressed it against his cheek. Then he came back with half an orange soaked in vodka. "This is good for you, man." Why not, Alfred thought. He sucked on it, feeling new heat rise out of his empty stomach into his head. The party became a blur, a sweet, sticky blur. Major left the wine bottle with him, and Alfred and Arlene danced into a corner. Someone began pounding conga drums. Hollis swam by and punched his arm. "Good to see you, Alfred." "Yeah, James come in?" "Not yet." "You sure he's coming?" Hollis patted a jacket pocket. "You can be sure he's coming." "Who's James?" asked Arlene. "A guy I know," said Alfred. "Let's sit down a while." Someone began passing a cigarette around. The way everyone dragged on it, he knew it was marijuana. Alfred shook his head when Arlene put it between his lips. "It'll relax you, honey," she said, stroking the back of his neck, and he inhaled. The red bulb burned out, and it was pitch dark in the clubroom. The wine bottles kept coming around, and the cigarettes. Except for soft laughter, the music covered all sound in the room. Like a nice, dark movie, he thought. He took longer pulls on the bottle and the deeper drags on the cigarette to keep the warm, soft feeling in his head. Once the door opened for some newcomers, he saw Arlene smiling up at him, her face puffy, the blonde wig tipped over one eye. At dawn, an invisible fist slammed into his stomach, and he barely made it out to the alley. He leaned against a brick wall and tried to catch his breath. Newspaper pages fluttered along the street on a morning breeze. He saw a patch of pink sky between the buildings, and for a moment he thought about the park, the good feeling of gravel underfoot, the wind straining past his face. Then he went back down the basement steps. Sonny had passed out on the couch, and Hollis's date was slumped over the mop sink. Hollis was dancing with Arlene, and there was just a little bit of wine left, and they passed it around, trying to get the nighttime glow started in the dirty glare of rising daylight. Some new people came with bottles wrapped in brown paper bags, and Major blacked out the little basement window with his jacket, and the party started all over again. "Hey, Alfred," mumbled Major, pulling him away from Arlene. "Your man." "James." The round face was thin, his eyes sunken. His suit seemed too big for him. "Where you been, James?" "Little Uncle Alfred," said James. His teeth were yellow. "Where you been, James?" "I been round." "Never called or nothing." "What for?" "We were partners, remember? He felt dizzy and shook his head. "James, I forgot about that burglar alarm, honest. I didn't mean for you to—" "It doesn't matter now." "Does. Don't want you thinking—" "I know you didn't mean nothing. You never mean nothing. You just fool enough to forget about that alarm." He turned his back on Alfred. Major came over and put an arm around James's neck. "Hollis got something for you, brother." The clubroom began to tilt for Alfred, but he took a deep breath and grabbed the back of a chair. Hollis pulled a packet of white powder out from his jacket pocket, and Alfred stumbled over. No, James, you don't want to mess with that stuff. You don't want to... Go away, Uncle Alfred. James was almost snarling. No good, James, mumbled Alfred, feeling the room sway. James took the packet and began fumbling with it, and Alfred followed him into a corner, trying to clear his head, steady himself. You and me, James. Partners. That was kid stuff, said James, as his fingers trembling tore at the packet. Listen to me, James, please. Alfred leaned against the tilting wall, his legs buckling, his eyes fogging. What you got to say? Asked James, suddenly staring at Alfred, waiting as Alfred's lips moved without any sound. He tried to clear his head, to think, to answer James's question, but the floor came up and sent him sprawling. James looked down at him, shook his head, and went back to his white powder. The end of chapter 11.